There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a connection, right before everything changes. It is not the silence of indifference, and it is not the silence of an ending. It is the silence of a rope going slack. For years, perhaps decades, you have held the tension. You have been the holder of space. You have carried the emotional weight for two. You have chased, you have analyzed, you have waited. You have lived in a state of perpetual anticipation, waiting for the echo to return to the sound you sent out. But then you stopped. Maybe it wasn't a conscious choice. Perhaps it was simply exhaustion, the soul-deep fatigue of a heart that has poured itself into a vessel with a hole in the bottom. So you withdrew your energy. You called your spirit back into your own body. You moved on. Not necessarily with someone else, but you moved on within yourself. And now you wonder, in this new silence where your anxiety used to be, what is happening on the other side? What does the unawakened counterpart, the one who ran from the intensity, feel when the footsteps behind them finally stop? The answer is not what you think. It is not immediate regret, and it is not immediate freedom. It is a psychological and energetic paradox that shakes the foundation of their reality. Let us walk through the architecture of their silence. To understand what the unawakened counterpart feels when you finally move on, we must first look at the physics of your connection. We often speak of this bond in romantic terms, clinging to narratives of destiny and longing, but let us speak of it today in terms of energy. Let us speak of it as a form of quantum entanglement. For a long time, the dynamic between you and them was governed by a polarized homeostasis. It was a balanced equation, even if it felt chaotic to you. You, the anxious heart, provided the pursuit. You provided the certainty. By constantly thinking of them, worrying about them, and energetically reaching for them, you created a steady stream of validation that flowed one way. Psychologically, for the avoidant soul, this energy served a dual and conflicting purpose. First, it terrified them. It felt like engulfment. It felt like a demand they could not meet, a question they did not have the answer to. But secondly, and this is the shadow they do not admit even to themselves, it anchored them. Your pursuit confirmed their existence. Your love, even when they rejected it, told them they were worthy. They could afford to run. They could afford to explore the world. They could afford to remain asleep because they knew, subconsciously, that you were keeping the lighthouse on. They knew exactly where the shore was. They navigated their life by the triangulation of your location. As long as you were stationary and waiting, they were free to roam. So what happens when you move on? When you truly detach, not as a manipulation tactic to get them back, but as a radical act of self-preservation, the energetic cord goes slack. The tension drops from the rope. The first thing they feel is relief. Do not be hurt by this truth. It is simply the relief of the nervous system. The pressure is off. The demand to perform, to feel, to show up vanishes. For a moment, they feel they have won. They have successfully defended their walls against the siege of your intimacy. They feel safe in their isolation. They exhale, but this relief has a shelf life. It usually lasts 3 weeks, perhaps 3 months, because the relief is based on the arrogance of assumption. They assume you are still there, just quiet. They assume you are still waiting in the wings, recovering your breath before you chase them again. But as the silence stretches, as the energetic supply is truly cut off, the relief turns into the vacuum. This is where the spiritual psychology becomes fascinating. When you stop projecting your energy onto them, they are suddenly left alone with their own energy. For the unawakened counterpart, this is a terrifying place to be. You see, for years, they used your pursuit as a distraction. As long as they were running from you, they did not have to look at themselves. They could focus on your neediness, your intensity, your demands. You were the problem. You were the villain in their narrative of independence. But when you are gone, the mirror is turned around. Without your noise to distract them, the noise in their own head becomes deafening. They begin to feel a phantom limb sensation. They reach out energetically to feel for your anxiety, your longing, and they grasp only air. This triggers a primal panic in the attachment system. It is not the panic of love, not yet. It is the panic of identity. They begin to question their reality. Why are they not chasing? Did I push too far? Am I actually alone? This is the beginning of their dark night of the soul. You are no longer the villain they run from. You have become the ghost they cannot find. They realize that the safety they sought is actually boredom. They realize that the silence they fought for is actually empty. And in that emptiness, they are finally forced to meet themselves. Here is the realization that will set you free from the cycle of waiting. We have been told a lie about love. We have been conditioned by movies, by songs, and by our own wounded inner children to believe that love is a tether. We believe that to love someone is to hold on to them tight, to pursue them when they drift, and to prove our devotion through the sheer endurance of our suffering. But in this high-frequency connection, in the realm of spiritual psychology, the opposite is true. Your attachment was not holding them close. It was pushing them away. Think of the physics of magnets. When you operate from a place of anxiety, lack, and desperate need, you are projecting a specific energetic frequency. It is a frequency of demand. You are saying unconsciously that you need them to complete you. And like two magnets with the same polarity facing each other, the harder you push, the further they slide. You are doing all the work, creating all the momentum, and the laws of physics dictate that they must retreat to maintain the balance. When you move on, you are not abandoning them. You are flipping the magnet. You are shifting from the energy of repulsion to the energy of magnetism. You are becoming the sovereign. To understand this, you must internalize the metaphor of the lighthouse. This is the most critical image for your integration. Ask yourself, does the lighthouse run down the beach? Does it chase the ships into the dark waters, screaming for them to come back? Does it beg the captain to look at the light? No. If the lighthouse left its foundation to chase the boat would surely crash, and the lighthouse would crumble into the sea. The lighthouse stands still. It tends to its own flame. It is rooted deep in the bedrock of the earth. It offers the light without condition, but it is utterly indifferent to whether the ships come or go. Its value is not determined by the traffic in the harbor. Its purpose is simply to shine. When you move on, you become the lighthouse. You stop leaving your body to chase their soul. You return to your own center. You tend to your own garden. And this shifts the energy in the connection instantly. When the avoidant soul feels this shift, they feel, perhaps for the first time, the true weight of your value. This is a principle of economics as much as it is of spirit. Scarcity creates value. As long as your love was free, abundant, overflowing, and forced upon them regardless of their behavior, it was cheap. It was like air, necessary perhaps, but taken entirely for granted. You were always there, a guaranteed safety net. But now you have removed the net. Now your energy is gold, and they are realizing they are bankrupt. They begin to feel the terrible contrast of the world without your specific frequency. They may date others. They may seek distractions in work or shallow entanglements. But these connections feel flat. They are two-dimensional. They are drinking tap water after having tasted wine. They realize that the safety they sought is actually boredom. They realize that the intensity they ran from was not danger, it was home. However, you must understand a subtle nuance here. This paradigm shift only works if it is authentic. You cannot fake being a lighthouse. You cannot pretend to move on while secretly checking your phone every hour to see if the ship has turned around. If you are checking, you are still chasing. You are just a lighthouse peeking out the window, vibrating with anxiety. True magnetism requires you to actually release the outcome. You must reach a place of radical acceptance where you are okay if they return and you are okay if they do not. That is the vibration of the sovereign. That is the light that guides them home, not because you forced them, but because they finally saw the dark clearly and chose the light on their own. So, how do you inhabit this energy authentically? How do you move from the purgatory of waiting to the freedom of living without closing your heart to the possibility of connection? It is one thing to understand the philosophy of the lighthouse, but it is another thing entirely to practice it when your heart is aching. To bridge the gap between intellectual understanding and embodied reality, there are 3 specific internal shifts you must make. These are not games. They are not strategies to manipulate the other person into returning. They are structural changes to your own psyche that restore your sovereignty. The first shift is what I call the alchemical withdrawal. You must consciously call your energy back from their timeline and return it to your own. You may not realize it, but every time you fantasize about their return, every time you replay old conversations in your mind, and every time you check their social media, you are sending them a distinct packet of energy. You are feeding the ghost of the relationship. As long as you feed the ghost, the unawakened counterpart feels energetic fullness. They feel no hunger for your presence because they are gorged on your attention. You must stop the supply. This requires discipline. When the urge arises to check on them, to see if they have watched your story, or to see who they are following, you must visualize a golden cord connecting your solar plexus to theirs. You must visualize yourself unplugging that cord from them and plugging it back into your own source. You must feel the rush of your own power returning to your body. Use that reclaimed energy to build your empire, your body, and your art. Let them starve of your attention so they can finally develop a genuine appetite for for your presence. The second shift is detachment as love. We often mistake detachment for coldness or indifference. We worry that if we let go, we are abandoning them. But in spiritual psychology, detachment is the highest form of love you can offer. It is a declaration of trust. When you detach, you are saying to their soul, I trust your journey enough to let you fail. I trust you enough to let you walk in the dark without my flashlight. I respect your strength enough to stop trying to save you. For too long, you have likely operated from a place of spiritual arrogance, believing that you knew what was best for them, believing that you needed to guide them or fix them. But they are not a victim. They are a powerful soul who chose this path of resistance to learn a specific lesson. By trying to save them, you are interrupting their curriculum. You are stealing their lesson. You must release the need to be their savior. Respect their dignity by stepping out of the way and allowing them to face the consequences of their own choices. The third and final shift is becoming the quantum observer. You must move from being the victim of your emotions to being the witness of them. In this connection, the anxious heart is often addicted to the highs and lows, the chaos of the bond. But chaos repels stability. In this universe, like attracts like. If you are broadcasting a signal of anxiety, longing, and emotional turbulence, you will only attract a partner who matches that vibration, or you will repel a partner who is seeking peace. To shift this, you must practice radical emotional neutrality. When the wave of grief comes, do not say, I am sad. Say instead, I am noticing sadness. When the longing comes, do not say, I miss them. Say instead, I am noticing the sensation of longing. Do not become the emotion. Let it pass through you like weather. When you stabilize your internal frequency, you stop broadcasting static. You become a clear signal. A stable signal attracts a stable partner. Whether that is your counterpart returning as a new, integrated version of themselves, or someone entirely new who matches your high vibration, is irrelevant. The goal is your stability. The goal is your peace. When you master these three shifts, you stop waiting for the reunion, and you begin the reunion with yourself. The irony of the twin flame journey, or any high-level soul connection, is that the destination was never the other person. The destination was always you. The avoidant soul was merely the catalyst designed to break your heart open so that you could find the gold inside. They were the sandpaper that polished you into a diamond. When you finally move on, when you finally choose yourself, the runner feels the loss of your codependency, yes, but eventually they feel the inspiration of your sovereignty. Your rising forces them to rise or to fall away completely, and either outcome is a victory for you, because you are no longer half a soul looking for completion. You are the universe, ecstatic in your own existence. Walk forward. Do not look back. If they are meant to be part of your future, they will have to run to catch up. And if they don't, you will be too busy flying to notice. If this perspective shifted something in your reality today, share your experience in the comments. I read them. I see you. Until next time.